Hello YouTube, SentinalhMC here, and welcome to the exciting first episode of my ReactorCraft tutorial series. I know a lot of you have been anxiously awaiting when I started talking about ReactorCraft, and originally I was going to wait until RotaryCraft was completely finished before starting talking about this, but I've decided, I'm going to talk about them probably at the same time. However, the ReactorCraft series is not going to become a daily video like the RotaryCraft one was. It's still going on, because the ReactorCraft stuff a bit more in depth, and so it's not going to be daily, but they are going to start, and they're not going to interrupt the RotaryCraft series. They're going to be going on right along with it, and once RotaryCraft is finished, well, then I can completely donate my time to ReactorCraft, and we can do that. It'll come out more often. But anyway, this video, I want to go over the very first thing that you want to be aware of in ReactorCraft, and the very first thing we want to do is we want to craft the ReactorCraft Handbook. Just like with RotaryCraft, make sure this is the first thing you do, because you're not going to be able to do much in ReactorCraft without it, because it's a very in-depth mod, it's very complex, and it's not noob friendly, I guess I can say. You've got to really do your homework with ReactorCraft, or you can just obliterate yourself. So anyway, crafting this is simple. It's 6 paper, a HSLA steel ingot, which means you do need a blast furnace. You can't go into this mod without RotaryCraft, and blue fluorite crystals. And we'll talk about fluorite in a minute. Just remember that you do need blue fluorite for this. I have tried with other colors and it doesn't work. It must be blue. Okay. Alright, so this video we're going to go over Worldgen. RotaryCraft, if you remember, doesn't have any of its own Worldgen. It just uses the default materials, but ReactorCraft does have Worldgen. It has a lot of materials that it adds. So this video is just going to be covering these things, because these are the things you're going to need in order to do stuff in ReactorCraft. So from left to right, we'll just go through this, starting with this, which is fluorite. It says blue fluorite at the top, but these fluorite blocks that you find in the world, these give you all kinds of different colors of fluorite. If I go in here and give myself a pickaxe, you don't need a diamond pickaxe. I think you need an iron one. I could be wrong about that. If I set myself into survival and I break this block, I get all kinds of little pieces of different colors of fluorite. So let's go back into creative. Okay, so you can see I've got, out of that one, I managed to get blue, orange, pink, green, white, and yellow. And there are other colors as well. If we look over here, we can see all the colors of fluorite. And these are fluorite blocks. So you can craft the fluorite into fluorite blocks for storage, and you can get them back out as well. There's red, orange, yellow, green, blue. This is magenta, pink, and white. And if I remember correctly, these blocks can detect radiation. So if I remember this correctly, I think Reika said that these things can detect radiation. I think they glow. I'm not really sure. I think that's what it is. So I tried to get some radiation over here, but I couldn't figure out how to do that without causing a nuclear incident, and I didn't want to do that. So that's fluorite. Now, if I open this chest, you can see all the different colors of fluorite here in its crystal form, and you can also see that you can run it through a RotaryCraft extractor. You get fluorite, which goes through the various stages to flakes, then it gives you a gem, and you craft this gem. And whenever I've crafted the gem, I've only gotten blue. I don't know if you can get other colors of it by using these gems, but I've only managed to get blue fluorite. Or was it white fluorite? I think you need to smelt these. No, you just craft it, and it crafts into white fluorite. Okay. Alright, so yeah, you do get white fluorite if you do it this way, which you can't use to make the handbook, remember. So you're going to need to break at least one or two, one block of this fluorite to try and get the blue color, because you can't use the white color. Okay, so the next thing is silver. Now, silver, of course, is in a lot of different mods in the FTV packs, but if you're only using ReactorCraft and RotaryCraft and whatnot, this is what your silver will look like. Not yours. This is a texture pack. This is the Faithful pack from FTV Monster. But yeah, you get silver, and so you get silver ingots, and you can run it through the extractor, of course. So there's silver. The next one is cadmium. Cadmium is strictly ReactorCraft, and it is a necessary resource. You do need quite a bit of this, and you can of course run it through the extractor, and I highly recommend doing so you can get more of it. All right, because cadmium is not the rarest thing ever. I mean, it's not terribly rare. I mean, you can find quite a bit of it when you're going around, you know, but it's not as common as something like iron. So I would highly recommend running this through a rotary craft extractor. You can also run it through a grinder to get 3 out of each, but I would recommend running it through an extractor to get the most you can possibly get. And then next is indium. Now indium is rare compared to cadmium. I don't know how much rarer it is than cadmium, or if in the tables, but I have scoured areas in the past looking for indium and not managed to find a whole lot of it. So I would highly recommend, unless I'm just not looking in the right places, I would highly recommend running this through an extractor, and you can run it through the rotary craft extractor to get more of your indium. Now, silver, cadmium, and indium have one main purpose in ReactorCraft, and that is the creation of cadmium, indium, silver alloy ingots. And these ingots are used to craft fuel containers and absorption rods, which are both necessary for the construction of various reactors, of nuclear reactors. So you are going to need this to make nuclear reactor, okay, or to make any reactors, because as far as I know so far, you do need fuel canisters and fuel cores. Fuel cores are a base crafting component for other reactor types, so you are going to need these silver, cadmium, indium ingots, so alloy ingots. So that's the main purpose for these. Okay, then we've got pitch blende, and there's 2 different kinds of pitch blende. It's the same stuff, but this one is found in the end. See, it's got endstone in there. Pitch blende is an interesting substance. It's very common in the end. It's not so common in the overworld, but it is quite a bit more common in the Twilight Forest. So if you have access to the Twilight Forest, I went to the Twilight Forest looking for pitch blende. I found one of those barrow hills where inside of the hill it's like a super high density ore area, and I came out with a whole ton of pitch blende. You can of course find veins of it in the overworld, and it does come in rather large veins. It can be a bit of a struggle to find these, but pitch blende is necessary for nuclear reactors because it's how you get your uranium. So I would highly recommend running pitch blende through an extractor to get as much of it as possible. I've run a lot of pitch blende through my extractors in a single player world, and I got tons. No, it was a multiplayer world. I should go back on there and make sure they haven't deleted all my stuff. And pitch blende you're going to need it for uranium. And what you'll do is you can grind the pitch blende into dust to make one type of fuel, or you can run it through a uranium processor to refine it into the uranium stuff, because you use the pitch blende to get your uranium. So yeah, next is calcite, and even if it doesn't look like this in texture pack, if you're using vanilla, it'll still be like orangey and yellowy. And calcite, you can also run it through an extractor, and I would recommend it because this stuff comes not in veins, but in 1 or 2 blocks at a time. So it's rare to find more than a couple of blocks of calcite next to each other. So I would highly recommend saving it up, and the extractor is a great way to get more of it. And you get these little calcite crystals, and the primary use for these calcite crystals, and you can craft these calcite crystals into blocks for storage, but the primary use of calcite is to cook it into quicklime. And quicklime can be used to make paper. It can be used to turn rotten flesh into leather. Excuse me. But its primary use is to use it with ammonium chloride, an ammonia synthesizer, to create liquid ammonia, or gaseous ammonia. I'm not really sure which, just ammonia, which is used in nuclear reactors. now that we've talked about calcite, here's the ammonium chloride, and I believe that's a nether ore. That looks like netherrack that it's part of. So I believe this is found in the nether. That's what it looks like. I haven't gone into this yet myself, but it appears that it would be found in the nether, judging by this texture. So that's ammonium chloride, and it can be run through an extractor, so you probably want to do that, because from what I understand, ammonia is not all that easy to get a hold of, so I would recommend running it through an extractor. And then you can get your ammonium chloride dust, which you can use with the quicklime in the ammonia synthesizer. And that's all it's used for, is to get this liquid ammonia or gaseous ammonia. I'm not really sure. I think it's a liquid. It's a liquid ammonia, I'm pretty sure. Because it's used in place of water in nuclear reactors, in the boilers. And then finally, we got magnetite. And magnetite is found all over the place. I tend to find it in extreme hills biomes quite a lot. I'm pretty sure it can spawn everywhere, but I tend to find it most in hills biomes. I do tend to find quite a bit of it there. But anyway, you can of course run it through an extractor, and I would recommend doing so because you're going to need a crap ton of this for what it's used for. Seriously, you're going to need a ton of this stuff. If you break it with a pickaxe, you'll get lodestones. If you want to run it through an extractor, you got to use silk touch. Okay, and I think yes, and I would recommend doing that because you'll get more lodestones by doing this than by just breaking it. And now these lodestones can be used for one of two things. They can be used to craft it into ferromagnetic ingots, which are created with HSLA steel, iron, and a lodestone to get a ferromagnetic ingot. Only one for those three. Or to be crafted into permanent magnets in a compactor. 4 lodestones, 2 permanent magnets. And both of these things are used to create the ReactorCraft fusion reactor. So yeah, you're going to need a ton of magnetite if you want to make a fusion reactor, so I would recommend extracting it. So anyway, that's the Worldgen for ReactorCraft. These are the resources that you are going to need to create the reactors for ReactorCraft. So that's it for this episode. I just wanted to dedicate an episode to Worldgen just to make sure that we talked about these things and you got a bit of a feel for them. So that if you see these in your world, even if you're planning on getting into ReactorCraft but you're not there yet, when you see these things, you know what they are and you know how to treat them. Because they're, like I said, you probably want to extract magnetite ore in an extractor to get more of it, so you'll want to silk touch it and stuff. So I hope this has helped you to get a little bit of a handle on what these resources are if you haven't started using it. Before we start getting really into this ReactorCraft series, I highly recommend build yourself the ReactorCraft Handbook, start going through it, and starting to understand, or at least peruse the book to get an idea for what it's about. Read the basic information sections. The introduction to nuclear reactions. Read up on this stuff. It's going to be very important that you understand a lot of all the information that's in this book, because ReactorCraft is much more difficult than RotaryCraft, because you're building reactors and they're dangerous in reality, so they're very dangerous in Minecraft as well in this mod. So I hope you have enjoyed this. And oh yeah, before I go, one more little note about pitchblende is that pitchblende is compatible with uranium from other mods, so you can turn pitchblende into yellorium for big reactors, and you can use it in place of industrial craft uranium for those applications. But yeah, this is the Worldgen for ReactorCraft, guys. You're going to need to stockpile yourself a crap ton of this stuff because you're going to need a lot of it to build these reactors. They're not cheap, they're not easy, but you get them built up and they're very, very rewarding. So, hope you have enjoyed this video. Look forward to the ReactorCraft series coming soon. I'm SentinalH, and I'm signing out.